proud members of the Fan First Sports Network.
Klatt did a thing. Josh Pate did a thing. Everybody's talking about how can we fix this college football playoff thing. Here's the thing. Bring back the BCS rating system.
Already know.
Bring back the BCS.
Already know.
I'm just talking about let a computer decide who's going to be your best 12 teams and go fucking play the 12-team playoff. And let everybody play every round. There doesn't need to be a bye.
Nah.
Well, you can't do that with 12 teams.
Okay, so bring 16.
Also, I like the ability for lesser schools to get in when they have a good season. The SMUs and the Boise States, I liked that they were in there.
Basically,
because if they were good enough to
I'm not
compete,
saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't have at large bids. I'm saying you can let it.
The conference champions.
You can take it out of the hands of people.
45, 40, 35, 40. He's gonna go. It's time, people. Feel it.
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better. He gets better and better. Team is if we die, we die.
Man is moving a child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln.
Beer crack.
means the show's on.
Hey, we're going to talk about.
Yeah, because you never crack a beer when the show's not on.
We're going to talk about the national championship. Do us a favor, like the show, subscribe to the show if you haven't, hit the notification bell, but drop a comment and let us know who you think's going to win, Ohio State or Notre Dame.
And we know.
And
Also-
since
also-
looking at the screen, you can only see the first part of my shirt.
Just stand up for a second.
Yeah,
There you go.
we're going to zoom in on that. Boom, boom, boom. This one's for you, Vegas.
That shirt's older than Notre Dame's coach.
So it's 3 years old.
Jesus Christ! Will you guys calm down? All the coaches that had to play him in the tournament so far.
Whatever. He's a little baby, but he's actually a really good coach.
He's a great coach.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think Notre Dame is by far and away the best coach team in college football right now.
Well, they're way better
right
coach.
now, there's only 2 teams playing, so
It's easy to say, yeah.
They're way better coached than their
I wouldn't say
opponent.
by far, but they're
But they don't have near the talent, especially with all the injuries going on right now.
No, that's I think the biggest storyline in this game. They left it all out on the field against Penn State, which if you didn't watch that game, shame on you because that was an amazing college football game. One of the best we saw all year long.
Yep.
Not so much indicated by the score, but also the same way with Ohio State and Texas. I mean, if you're a college football tournament, college football playoff, 12-team denier, you're crazy. Because if you think back to all the Final Fours that we've had over the last, what's it been, 10 years now since we went to this tournament style?
something like that. Yeah.
Somewhere in that way?
This would have been the 11th year.
Yeah.
11th year. So you look
I
at
was
the
gonna say 2014.
majority of that first round, the majority of that semifinals, those were blowouts. Like, think about the TCU Michigan game. Think about Ohio State Georgia that year.
Think about any time that Oklahoma even sniffed it.
The majority of the first round of the 4 was blowouts.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we had some blowouts in the first 2 rounds of the college football playoff this year.
Yeah.
I think there's some things that they're going to work on and there's some kinks we got to work out. But it gave us 2 really compelling games that, yeah, sure, Ohio State won by 2 touchdowns, but unless you get a scoop and score in the last 3 minutes of that game, that's a 1-possession game.
That's potentially going into overtime on that drive.
Yeah. They were both fantastic games. Really, really well-matched teams. It's a shame, I think, the way that they set it up that the conference champions didn't get any home field advantage and didn't get a chance to play that first week because I feel like Oregon might have been a little bit different story. Although I feel like Ohio State's kind of a buzzsaw.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you could have changed about this. I also thought some of the other games were very, very competitive and very entertaining. The Texas-Arizona State game, very entertaining.
Fantastic game. And what a good job by Dillingham down there in Arizona State.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He's kind of a psychopath, but he's a really good coach.
Well, you look at what he did this year to Arizona State and what Sigari, whatever his name is, at
Cignetti.
Indiana.
Sigs.
they're both psychos, and they both kind of made it happen
Yes,
in
they
their
did.
first
Yes,
their
they
first
did.
year through. So that's impressive. Good on them. I honest to God, I thought Texas was going to mop the floor with Arizona State.
And they didn't. It was a great game.
Shout out to Eric, our sister's boyfriend, Eric with a K, by the way. He's a big Washington fan. He's a big Arizona State fan. He actually played at Arizona State.
But it's been a big year for him in football.
So he's just like loving life right now.
Oh, you mean Commanders?
yeah,
Okay.
Commanders,
Well, you said
yeah.
Washington. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I'm a college football
Yeah,
guy.
Washington.
So
no.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, he's not a Washington and a Huskies fan.
That's
No,
why I was like,
no.
the thing
No.
that I've loved the most out of the playoff this year is that you got to watch two teams prove it several times that they should be in the championship game.
Yep.
There was zero question in my mind that these are the teams that should be here right now.
So let me ask you guys
with the way
this.
they were playing, yeah.
We recorded a show that was short like this right after the first round, and it never came out. We had some stuff go on, and it never came out.
Timing, whatever.
I got to ask you about it then. I'm going to ask you about it again now because I think your answers are probably going to be different. Indiana and the shit that was thrown at that Indiana Notre Dame game because it looked like such a lopsided game, and
yes,
Indiana
they
looked
still
like
deserve to get in.
it looked like they didn't belong. I think they absolutely deserve to get in. How different do you look at that game now, though, knowing that Notre Dame went on to play in the Natty, and the only other loss they have is the other team that's playing in the Natty?
You mean Indiana?
Indiana,
the only
yeah,
two
sorry.
losses they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's Notre Dame and Ohio State.
I still look at it as what it was, which was a complete domination blowout by Notre Dame, and then they let them score a couple times at the end.
I agree with you, but I'm saying they still lost to the two teams. Like the only losses on the season are to the two teams that are playing for the national championship.
He said it exactly right. They deserve to be there.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be out in the first round. That's everything happened as it should for Indiana.
They played like ass in that game.
Yeah.
Just like they played
But that's
against
what I mean.
Ohio State.
Indiana had one of the easiest schedules in college football this last
They
year.
did.
But they
That's
won
fair.
all the games that they should have. They should have been there.
And it wasn't. And again, they deserve.
And
to
then
be
they
in
were
it.
swiftly shown the
There-
door as
there
they
is-
should have been.
There is zero conversation that I
Get the
will
fuck out.
even remotely listen to that they did not deserve to be in there because it wasn't just that they won all of their other games. I don't care how easy their games were. They murdered everybody that they played.
Yeah. Anybody who wants
So-
to argue that any team that was in the playoffs this
Including
year shouldn't have
Nebraska.
been there, fuck right off.
I-
Yeah.
Literally, because again, my buddy down in Florida was having this conversation with somebody, and they were, big. I think he said that they were a South Carolina fan, and he was going on and on about how Indiana didn't deserve to be there. And my buddy Mike was continuing the conversation. I'm like, why did you continue the conversation? I would have just turned around and walked away from him because that's not a conversation even worth having. Oh, you're dumb. I'm leaving. The conversation's over.
Here's what I'll say though. Like, truthfully, I think there was a lot of overreaction because the same people that, it was funny because John Bishop from 1620 in the afternoon on Sportsmanlike Conduct was making reference to, these jokes were old yesterday about the NFL,
the seeding,
the first
yeah,
round of the NFL. And how everybody was talking about, these other teams should have been in or whatever, blah, blah. I saw one about the Chargers, like, I'm sure Alabama would have done a better job in this game. Like, I thought they were funny, but at the same time, the jokes were the jokes because it's
Of the absurdity.
Well, it was like there was a double standard. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you expect this college football playoff? Which I just think is like, I think the committee's ridiculous. If I were the one making up the rules, and everybody's talking about this right now, Joe Klatt did a thing, Josh Pate did a thing, everybody's talking about how can we fix this college football playoff thing. Here's the thing. Bring back the BCS rating system.
I already know.
Bring back
Go
the
ahead.
BCS.
Already know.
I'm just talking about let a
Hey, you-
computer decide who's going to be your best 12 teams and go fucking play the 12 team playoff and let everybody play every round. There doesn't need to be a bye.
Nah.
Well, you can't do that with 12 teams.
Okay. So bring 16.
Also, I like the ability for lesser schools to get in when they have a good season. The SMUs and the Boise States, I liked that they were in there
Basically,
because if they were good enough to
I'm not saying
compete,
you can't. I'm not saying you can't have at-large bids. I'm saying you can let it.
The
you
conference
can, you can take
champions-
it out of the hands of people.
I don't even care about the people because the BCS rankings had a people element to it because it implied people votes.
The
So-
polling. And I guess when I
There was
say
an
bring
element
back
to
the
it.
BCS, I'm not saying like actually bring back the BCS.
I don't care about the committee. The committee's fine, one way or the other. I don't. That's irrelevant to me. But the point is for me is just have the 5 conference champions as far as the 4 big 4, the top one from the group of 5. Have them, if they win their conference, they get in. That doesn't mean that they get to top 4, but they're in the playoff, and then everybody else is seeded after that.
100%.
Also, why the fuck did they not decide to do reseeding?
See, I don't like reseeding either. So
reseeding.
There's no reason that Oregon and Ohio State should have been playing in a quarterfinal.
Based on their seeds,
Oregon is the no. It's that's what I mean. Their seeding is wrong.
What do you mean?
Ohio State should not have been at number 8.
Based on
the fact that they were better, they should not have been 4 behind Arizona State.
I'm talking about the criteria at which they placed these people in the top 12 here for the playoff. They were in the correct spot, and the reseeding would have just caused ruckus.
Would have caused necessary ruckus.
Well, their biggest problem also was that they should have just ranked the teams in the seeding. So even if that means Arizona State is ranked 4th, even though they're the worst team in there, they should have just flat out been the 4th team. Like, don't rank them 1 through 12 and then all of a sudden say the number 8 team is the number 4 seed. It's like, no, just rank them in the seeding order.
You won your conference championship, so you're in.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're the number 4 team.
Yeah.
Just like Boise.
No, but I'm talking about with the rules, the way that they are. The top 4 seeds are the top 4 conference champions. Just rank them in that order then. Don't throw one of them into a random like number 10 and say, by the way, you're the 3 seed. Like, no, just rank them in the order of the
what
seed.
You're saying.
So Boise State was ranked like 8th or whatever. I didn't look at the rankings because I really don't care what they are, but they were seeded 3rd.
Yeah.
Just
they should have been 8th.
No, but just rank them 3rd then. If they're the 3 seed, just rank them 3rd.
No.
Yes.
No, I look at that the exact opposite. If you won your conference championship, cool, you're in.
Well,
you punch your ticket.
I'm talking about what the rules are right now. I'm not talking about what it should be changed into. I'm talking about the way it is right now.
I'm talking about what it should be changed into.
That's fine. I'm talking about the way it is right now.
The way they rank.
What they did right now is they should have just put Boise State at 3 and ranked them 3rd if they're the 3 seed. Now, in the future, I don't think that that's how it should go. I'm talking about the way that they did it now.
Got it. Yeah. No, I do think it's ridiculous. I think reseeding is ridiculous as well. But you should also have the best team playing the worst team in the playoff. That's the way playoffs work.
That's what reseeding accomplishes.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about
best team
in the
plays
first
the worst
round.
team.
In the first round, it's all just like they do in March Madness. You don't reseed March Madness.
Yes, but if you have 1 through 4 getting a bye, you have 5 through 12. You have number 5 then should be playing number 12, which means you have a chance of number 5 going in and playing number 1 after they beat number 12. It doesn't make any sense. Reseeding solves all of that.
Yeah, I don't agree with
You're the number 1. You always play the worst team left.
And I think the word reseeding is kind of misleading. It's more of just the top seed always plays the lowest seed. The second top seed always plays the second lowest seed.
That's what reseeding is.
But it's not really putting like when you hear reseeding, you hear putting in a different number and you putting them in a different slot.
Yeah, everybody's thrown off by the fact that you look at a bracket.
I know.
You need to be looking at pools.
I agree.
That's
this
fine.
is the pool of games that's happening.
Yeah.
Then you have the next pool of games that's happening.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you want, but that's how they should do it.
I was just more talking about the verbiage of reseeding. A lot of people get confused by what
people are easy to confuse. We get confused on here all the fucking time.
Guilty.
I'm not confused about what reseeding is. I just don't like it. I think you build your bracket and you should build it from a top to bottom based on actual ranking, not based on, you won your conference championships. No, so now all of a sudden you're BYU or your Boise State and you're number 4 when you should be number 3. 10 or 11.
Yeah.
If you have to do it this way, where you have 12 teams and 4 teams get a bye, a bracket doesn't make sense.
But like just looking at this, when you look at Penn State was number 6 and Ohio State was number 8. Okay. Easily flopped those two. Ohio State probably should have been number 4 in this ranking. It should have done something along the lines of Oregon, Texas, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State.
Notre Dame would have been in the top 4.
No, okay, Notre Dame
would
and then Ohio State, maybe however you want to look at it, but like it just didn't shake out that way. And I really think there was a benefit to playing the extra game the week before, especially when it was at home.
Well,
How could you possibly see a benefit when all 4 teams who played the extra game proceeded on in the next round?
And they absolutely smoked.
but I also think that those second round games would have been completely different if the second round games would have been at home.
Also true.
I don't know about that.
I do.
I
Because
completely
remember,
agree.
Ohio State played within 1 point at Oregon earlier in
Fine, but
the
I
season.
think that game is different if it's at Oregon.
Maybe by a score,
Just-
which wouldn't have
I'm
mattered.
not saying that Ohio State doesn't win.
Yeah.
I'm just simply saying I think that game's different if it's at or Oregon.
I think it's different if Oregon didn't play.
Maybe
Did
it's
not play the
maybe
week
it's
before.
different if Penn State has to go to Boise State.
Maybe.
Like, you know,
Does Boise have that kind of a home crowd?
Maybe,
Well, no, but
maybe
just-
it's different if Notre Dame is in Georgia.
that's what I'm saying.
That
Like,
might be different. That might be very different, actually.
those second round games should have been at home. To me, that's the biggest change that I would make.
We might have seen flashers if Texas went to Arizona State.
I don't know. That was another game that I just like. I loved that game. You know, the crazy thing is, I loved the Penn State SMU game.
Yeah.
Even though it was a total domination, you saw elite football from a Penn State team that they would have had probably a quarter of their roster hold out if they weren't in the playoff.
Shit.
Yeah.
If
Texas
that was a bowl
Clemson.
game,
You
if
saw
that, was
stuff.
if that was a regular bowl game,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have seen that kind of talent on the
No.
field.
Abdul Carter would
It
not
was,
have been
it was
playing.
a great fucking game.
I saw stuff out of Clemson in that game against Texas that I didn't see from them all year long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when I think back to, I think the only other Clemson game I watched front to back was week 2 or one or two when they got just absolutely drubbed by Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looked like a completely different football team.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. I love the playoff being expanded. I wish they'd at least go to 16 teams.
Or 64. I'm just saying. Hear me out.
Matt's never going to let this die.
Yeah, no, you won't. They will be going to 16 at some point, at minimum 14, and they will be changing the seeding process either next year or the following year.
All that being said, what do you guys think about this game? Because I'm excited about this game. I'll be honest with you. One of the things, we talked about the different pundits and things like that trashed on the first round, and specifically Kirk Herbstreit. I mean, that dude went off about Indiana not belonging and this and blah, blah, blah. And it's very easy for everybody to point at anybody that works for ESPN/ABC and say, oh, well, you're just an SEC blowhard and blah, 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 all this stuff. It's like, first of all, he's an Ohio State quarterback. And he made a really, really good point. He's like, oh, yeah, everybody at ESPN who owns the rights to the college football playoff and specifically the national championship, yeah, they really hate two of the biggest brands historically in college football being in the national championship. They
Yeah, no
hate
kidding.
it.
I always just I hate the conversation of these channels.
Well, he walked it back, is all I'm saying.
I don't even care about. I'm talking about the fans just constantly like just shut the fuck up. They're talking about the sport. Relax. Like, I'm sorry.
That's their job. They're paid to talk about
God,
it. We're not paid to talk about it, and that's what we like to do. So we're not
everything
right.
everything has to be a bias. Shut the fuck up. They're talking about the players. Like, go away.
It's also easier
Anyway.
to say in the moment that they don't belong when it looks like a blowout, and then you go on to watch the other teams the better version of the teams you're saying should be in get blown out by those same teams.
Yeah, Georgia technically lost by more points than Indiana did.
Yeah. Even factually, not even just technically.
That's what typically means.
No.
I think if I could quote the great Shane Gillis in a slight variation, I think it's going to be OSU by 1 million. I don't think it's going to be a competitive
Shane
game
Gillis
at all.
wouldn't say that because he's a Notre Dame guy. But,
That's what he said. He said it's going to be Notre Dame by 1 million
oh, sorry. I thought you said Ohio State
to Alabama Jones.
because it's not going to be Notre Dame by 1 million.
That's what I'm saying.
at all.
This game is not going to be competitive. You said it best. Notre Dame left it all on the field last week,
I think
and
they went absolutely balls to the wall to win that game.
they're not going to be able to overcome their injuries and
It's
the
unfortunate, yeah.
the emotional hangover of winning that game that way. It's super close game, super physical, super competitive. They're still going to be feeling that as they headed to a game against an Ohio State team that's just more talented before they got injured.
Here's my take on the injury side of things. Jordan Love is the biggest part of their offense, and he has basically a bum leg. Somehow, even though he said he wasn't going to hurdle anybody in that Penn
still
State
did.
game, he still did.
He's a fucking freak.
He is a tremendous athlete at running back. I can't There's a lot. Like, I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I kind of hate on Notre Dame. I don't hate on them nearly like you do, but this is a fun team to watch. Like, and Marcus Freeman is a fun coach to root for. And it sucks that he coaches for Notre Dame.
It does.
Because I actually read an article earlier today. I think it was by somebody at NBC was talking about how Marcus Freeman is making Notre Dame not hated. Like, he's a guy that you want to root for because, like, he does it the right way. He talks the right way. He's building teams the right way.
It's kind of like Andy Reid and the Chiefs. I still hate the Chiefs, but I like Andy Reid.
That's fair. That's fair. But I also like a lot of the players that are on that team, including Xavier Watts, who kind of is the leader of their defense on the back end.
Yes, he is.
I think it's
Not
gonna,
kind of,
I
he
think
is.
it's- I think Notre Dame has an elite defense. I don't know that they're as talented on paper as Ohio State's, but I think that they do have the defense to stymie some of what Ohio State does on offense. I just don't know if anybody in the country, including the NFL, has an answer for Jeremiah Smith. The guy is an absolute freak, but somehow was held to basically nothing against Texas.
Yeah, I think
They didn't even need him.
they're
and they
definitely
still
going to be
walked on
following-
Texas.
They're definitely going to be following that game plan. And I think Notre Dame can hold them under 30 points.
So, with somebody like myself that says the things that I do about Notre Dame to literally anybody that wants to listen.
And most people that don't want to
And
listen.
I was just going to say that. Specifically,
Yeah,
like,
especially Notre Dame fans.
well, specifically like 85% of my mom's side of the family, because they're all domers. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that Notre Dame is not a good team because I've been telling people that they are a really good team. I don't know for sure that I would say that they're an elite defense. Only because, yes, statistically, they are up there with on both
They're
all
missing
the
that
stats.
corner right now too. That's the tough thing.
My biggest thing has been, we talk about Indiana hasn't played anybody tough all year. Ohio State really realistically hasn't played a whole lot of teams tough teams this year. But Notre Dame goes under the radar every fucking year with their schedule where people are like, oh my God, they have such a tough schedule. Bull fucking shit they do. Like, I know people are going to say they played Army and Navy and look what Army and Navy's records were. I'm sorry.
No, that's not.
But Army and Navy puffed up their schedule on garbage teams too, and that doesn't mean shit. The best team that they played was a 8-4 Texas A&M team. Whoop-de fucking do. But also, 10 of their 15 opponents that they've played so far this year, their passing offense was ranked outside of the top 60. 8 of their 15 opponents on total offense were ranked outside of the top 60. They are ranked second in passing defense. That's great. The thing is, they haven't played anybody that can pass the ball. Again, 10 of their 15 teams that they played were outside of the top 60. In those
Louisville could pass the ball.
I'm getting there. But
Okay.
Louisville's one of the teams that are inside the top 60. Of those 5 teams that they played that are inside the top 60, 10 of the 12 passing touchdowns that they have allowed all season were in those 5 games. So if you have even remotely good passing offense, which, by the way, I think Ohio State does, you can pass the ball on this team. Their talent level is great on defense. Everybody's going to look at my shirt and be like, oh, he's only saying this because he hates Notre Dame. That doesn't mean that I can't also look at this in a non-judgmental way. I'm literally looking at the stats. Like, this isn't an opinion situation here. So these, yes, statistically and ranking-wise, they are an elite defense. They haven't played anybody. And Ohio State's a different fucking animal.
I hear you. I really do. They practically held Indiana to 3 points until the very end. They held Georgia to 10 points. And they held Penn State with that fucking ridiculous tight end to 24 points.
Yeah.
They're pretty damn good at it.
But
Penn State's offense was not elite this year. They didn't have any wide receivers. They also, here's a stat actually in Notre Dame's favor, but they held Penn State's wide receivers to 0 catches.
Well, again, I don't know that I would say that that's all Notre Dame because Penn State also did that against Ohio State. So it's kind of...
I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
That I don't disagree with you, but they did play people this year. Louisville was a very, very good opponent this year.
Yeah, they were 6-6 or 7-5.
They fell asleep at the wheel. They fell asleep at the wheel. Maybe didn't even get out of bed against Northern Illinois. That's their one loss on their record. Other than that, it's just like you say with everybody else. You have to be able to beat the teams that are on your schedule. It doesn't matter who was on their schedule. The opening game against
They had
Texas
a great
A&M,
season. But
The
it's not this like,
the-
my God.
The opening game against Texas A&M, no, I agree with you 100%.
Their numbers are inflated based on who they play.
Cool, I don't give a fuck. They played
Just
in
saying.
a 12-team playoff,
Yeah.
and they got to the national championship.
And that's great.
That's my point. It was like,
They
That's
played.
great.
They played the number 10, the number 2, and the number 6 team in
And
a
I'm
12-team
not trying to
playoff.
take that away from them.
by the championship game, I don't give a fuck about their season anymore.
Everything you're saying, all the stats you're rattling off, all that stuff would make me feel way differently about this if this was 4 weeks ago before the playoffs started.
That's fine.
Having beaten Indiana like a drum the way that they did, having taken it to Georgia in that was not an offensive show by them. That was a coaching show. In my opinion, Marcus Freeman outcoached Kirby Smart in an elite level in that game, and their trenches beat down an SEC.
Made Kirby Smart look dumb, if you know what I mean.
The second best SEC or the best SEC team according to
Without their starting quarterback.
without their starting quarterback. With a quarterback that supposedly would have started over their starting quarterback next year anyway, which is why he left.
Which isn't true, but
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's true. I'm just saying they're also Georgia. They're supposed to have 3 deep and be able to do whatever. And then they beat Penn State, who I think is like the best James Franklin Penn State team that they've probably had.
I think
That's just me.
honestly, to argue in Jed's favor, I think it's much less about Notre Dame's defense and much more about Oregon or Ohio State's offense. Because they have some of
I
the
agree with
best.
that
Well, and
again.
that
They have
was
some of the best
kind of-
college receivers that I've ever seen.
that's my point. Like, that was kind of my point of this matchup does not favor how they've gone the entire season, even through the playoffs, because the
Agreed.
offensive weapons that Ohio State has is something that Notre Dame has not seen all season.
More than anything, the injuries make it so that they cannot keep up.
Yeah.
Even if they keep Ohio State under 30 points, which I think is possible for them. I think Ohio State scoring 28 might be the
But
total
Notre
here.
Dame can't.
Notre Dame is not going to be able to do
No.
that.
Here's-
I will be shocked if they score 10 points in this game.
Yeah.
Here's a question that I have for you guys. Do you think the Michigan game, unleashed the Ryan Day?
No, Chip Kelly.
Here's
No, it wasn't.
Hold on. Do you think it unleashed the Ryan Day overlord over what Chip Kelly was trying to do on offense? And he said, okay, I'm hands off now? Or do you think this was more of a Ryan Day is now putting his hands back on the offense? Which way do you think it went?
I don't think either one, because I think I'm only going off of what Chip Kelly said. Chip Kelly said, I fucked up the Michigan game. Granted, that wasn't his quote. I'm not quoting him. But
He's
like,
getting aggressive and doesn't give a fucking press conferences anymore.
he's like, the Michigan game was on me.
Would you?
Like,
Yeah,
we
fuck.
should have opened it up. We should have, done what we've been showing these last 3 weeks, what we're capable of doing. That was not what we should have done against Michigan. He is owning the entire thing. I don't think that it's anything about Ryan Day. I think it's all about what Chip Kelly did not do
That's
in
fair.
that Michigan game.
Yeah, to add on to his point, I think Ryan Day is an idiot and a phony coach. So I don't think anything that he impacts is in a positive light.
I think he's emotional. I don't know that he was a phony coach.
I think
I
he'd
don't think
be.
I don't think you perpetually win 10, 11, 12 games and be a phony coach.
I
But
think he was handed a program that runs itself, and then he's filled the coaches around him with head coaches.
you have to do that. And that's part of your job.
Phony coach. I wouldn't want him at
As
Nebraska.
we
You-
just
you
did a
can-
show praising Matt Rule for doing the same thing.
You can only
Okay.
fake that for a couple of years. You
Yeah,
can't fake it for
you're
as
not
long
doing
as
it for
he's been
6
here.
seasons.
He's been there.
Matt Rule knows how to develop players. I don't think he knows how to develop anything.
But so
A
one
staff.
of my other things,
No, he knows how to pay for his staff.
even going into the playoff, that I said about Notre Dame is that if they go down 2 scores, they don't have the offense that can come back. Now,
I agree.
And I know what the Domers are saying right now. Well, we came back from 2 scores against Penn State because it was 10. We were down by 10, or who did they play last? It wasn't
Penn
It's
State.
10-3.
Yeah, it was. Well, they
It
were
was
down
10-0.
It
Yeah,
was 10-0.
but I
And
still
they won
say
the middle 8. That
I
was the
still
big
say
thing.
that if Leonard didn't get hurt for that last drive in the first half to go when the backup drove them down to score, that they would not have won that game against Penn State because Leonard wasn't doing dick
Yeah, he was
against
really out
that
of
Penn
it.
State
Yeah,
defense. So,
Penn State was playing out of their
now,
fucking
again,
minds.
to be
on
fair,
defense.
there goes, well, you don't know what they. Okay, fine. Yeah, I know. This is an opinion show. Get the fuck away from me.
You guys are
but-
doing opinions?
Yeah.
I'm just doing facts. Everything I just said about Ryan Day was all factual.
But you go down 2 scores against Ohio State, it is over. Like, not even close. Not just with Ohio State's offense, but with their defense. They are.
That's the thing. Jack Sawyer, bona fide first round pick.
Yeah.
I think that there's 2 DNs that'll probably go in the
JTT.
first round.
I can't pronounce his last name, so they just call him JTT.
Who's that?
He's the defensive end. He sprained his ankle in the last game. He came back in the second half. Tamolo or Tamala or
Talamua. Those 2 guys are both going to go first round. It's probably going to be them.
Tyleek on the defensive line is also
probably
going to go really high.
Probably them and the dude from Boston College, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But it's
Caleb Downs is one of the best
I think-
safeties in the country.
Yeah, and he's from Alabama last year.
Yeah.
I just think that this is way more about what Ohio State has and less about anything Notre Dame's going to try and do or has. They don't have the talent on the field that Ohio State has. Maybe they are better coached. Maybe they are better disciplined. Maybe there's a bunch of things that they do better. But if a 500-pound sumo wrestler doesn't have as good of technique as a 300-pound sumo wrestler, I bet you I know who's going to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. The 500-pounder is going to throw that dude out the ring immediately.
And I like Riley Leonard as a running quarterback, but he can't throw the ball. That's one of the reasons why I say the whole thing about if they're down 2 scores, you can't trust him to throw the ball. So he's going to go up against the Ohio State defense, where Notre Dame so far this season, 70% of their passes are inside of 10 yards downfield.
You know what? How ironic this is. Actually, we're finishing
good
up.
luck.
We're finishing up watching the '97 Missouri-Nebraska game. The famous catch in the end zone. If you don't know what we're talking about,
By some guy, some.
Do you know
bald
who
guy.
Riley Leonard reminds me of? Scott Frost.
Okay.
He's a good mobile running quarterback who's tough, who's a good leader.
Yeah.
That can make some throws, but it's not
I didn't
going
know
to
he
win
liked
you.
it when it snowed that much.
Or cocaine. It's not gonna win you. He's not gonna win you the game.
No.
He's not gonna win you the game with his arm. I mean,
But if you have no ability to stretch the field, and again, going up against the defensive players that Ohio State has, where everything, again, 70% of your passes are within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, like, good luck. They're going to pick you apart like crazy, literally and figuratively.
The best chance that Notre Dame had against Ohio State was controlling the trenches. They lost 2 of their offensive linemen starting offensive linemen in that last game.
Well,
that are not going to be
the guard
back.
might play. They said he's questionable.
Okay, that's fair. As far
But
as what
the
I've
left
seen,
tackle's gone.
is that they're not going to be back. And yeah, the guys that came in for him actually did a better job in the second half than the first half guys did.
Yeah, because they actually started to move the ball on the ground in the second half.
But what I can say is this: Jordan Love's not healthy. His knee is fucked.
Well,
He's probably going to require off-season surgery.
Again, just going off of Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman said Love is good to go. Now, but here,
yeah, good to go with a
good
bionic
to go
leg around
in a
his
national
fucking...
championship,
Yeah.
and good to go. I'm 100% are 2 completely different things.
couldn't agree more. I'm just simply saying it was funny. As soon as I saw that he said good to go, it's like good to go is kind of one of those phrases that you use when you're like, I hope he plays up to his potential. If he was like truly good to go, then he'd be like, no, he's playing and he's in.
The doctors
saying
told
good to
him
go
he's
is a
not going to
different-
injure anything any more than what he
Yeah.
already needed surgery
What-
for, so he can play.
Yeah.
when I tore my labrum and rotator cuff and they practically just strapped my arm to the side of my body, I was good to go
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So, like-
Exactly.
That's what I mean. Like, you're not going to do any more damage, kid, so get
Yeah.
out there and have some fun.
Yep.
I hope it's competitive. I don't think it's going to. I think we've already talked about this game a lot more than most people are probably even listening to.
I think the only way that it's competitive is if Ohio State shits the bed. And when I say shits the bed, I mean make stupid mistakes like they did against Texas.
Which
That-
they might play with their food enough and fuck around and do that.
But that game against Texas should have been a blowout. They dominated that first half, and it was, a close game at halftime.
Yep.
Like when you go down and you immediately score a first touchdown, then you get the ball back, and dumb fuck Henderson punches a guy in the face on third down,
Trevion Henderson.
and it's
yeah.
like, and basically kills the drive. And then the third or fourth drive, you get a huge holding penalty on the outside that was totally unnecessary, kills the entire drive. Ohio State dominated that game, and it didn't look. The scoreboard didn't say it.
They made so many dumb mistakes. It looked like a Nebraska game, but they have so much talent
to overcome
that
it all.
it didn't matter.
Yep.
Do you guys want to pick this game?
Yeah, I'm picking this game easy.
Yeah.
The line opened at minus 9.5 Ohio State. The over-under is set. It was opened at 46.5. It's only down to 45.5. But Ohio State's down to a -8, so it's swung by 1.5, which typically that'll tell you that there's been over a -5 on one side, which would be Notre Dame's on this side.
So bettors are expecting this to be a much closer game than we think it is.
Early bettors. Remember, the sharp money, the smart money doesn't come in until day of. My guess would be this line swings back up to somewhere in the 9.5 to 10.5 range. I personally think that this is going to be in Ohio State somewhere in the neighborhood of probably like 35 to 13. That's my guess on this game. I think it's a decently safe over to take, only because I do think Ohio State's going to score in the 30s. If Notre Dame scores 10, they can score 13. So I would take the over, and I'm definitely taking Ohio State, even if it's still at the -9.5. I already did that. The FPI on this game has Ohio State only with a 55.3% chance to win, but we know that those don't take into account injuries or current injury status when we talk about like Jordan Love, a couple offensive linemen that might or might not play. It's in Atlanta. It's in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
You want to let anybody else pick, or
I'm just
Jesus
letting you know all the
Christ.
stats before you go.
I don't need to know the stats. Notre Dame sucks. Fuck them. They're going to get their ass kicked. I love you to all my aunts and uncles and cousins that love Notre Dame, but you're gonna end the season on a loss.
It's gonna be bad.
It's gonna be bad.
you want to pick any sort of like final score or
don't
anything
give a
like
fuck.
that?
Notre Dame sucks. They're gonna lose.
It's going to be 28-3.
Cool.
And
28-3?
that under is hitting
Yeah.
pretty easy.
What a boring game. 28-3. Oof.
Notre Dame's not going to do jack shit in this game.
I-
They're not.
They're
They're not.
elite on special teams. I could see them pulling out some sort of a weird punt return, something like that. Like, I feel like Notre Dame goes up by a touchdown early in this game, but that's like the last time they score.
Yeah. Just again, the only chance Notre Dame has is if Ohio State just basically sticks it up their
Yeah,
own
the only
ass.
chance Notre Dame has is if Ryan Day coaches.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.